In this episode, we reach Machu Picchu and eat another rodent. My wife and I are on a motorcycle trip through Mexico, Central, and South America exploring culture and food. So bring an appetite for adventure because we're hungry riders.
We arrived in Cusco, Peru, which is the biggest city near Machu Picchu, and we use that as a base for going to Machu Picchu and back. And we explored the city quite a bit. It's a really gorgeous city in the mountains.
Yeah, it's very old school colonial. It was one of the main centers for the Incan Empire at the time. So when the Spanish came, they had their influence for a while. But you get to see a bit of both of it, which is really interesting.
Yeah, they have a really pretty plaza and everything, and we took the opportunity to buy alpaca gifts for friends and family.
Send them back home for Christmas.
Yeah, we got sweaters, blankets, gloves, hats, shawls.
And, yeah, you can buy a sweater for about $10 there, which I think is a crazy good deal.
Alpaca sweater, yeah.
But at the same time, we got ours at like the local mercado, like people are there actually making it by hand.
Yeah.
Or you can buy them in these fancy high-end shops.
In the touristy parts of town.
And pay like $100 for exactly the same thing. And that city is kind of the same way. Like you can spend $500 a night for a room, or $7 a night for a room,
which
like what we did.
And
so it's whatever you want. But we're back in like tourism central. But that's got pluses and minuses. We found some very delicious things to try too.
We did. We had an alpaca steak. We had had it in burger form before, but the steak was very delicious.
And then we also had what Serafina considers the best dessert of the entire trip.
Very good.
You guys check this out.
So this is a blue corn dessert. It's hot, which is nice because it gets very cold here. And there's a rice pudding combined with a blue corn sweet goop thing, and it's very, very delicious. I'm going to put cinnamon on top.
Is it as good as last night?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
A little bit. It's very good though.
So one of the other sights of Cusco is the Norton Rats, which is a British expat bar thing where they brew their own beer. And basically, if you're a motorcyclist and you're going through this part of the world, you'll probably go through Cusco and you'll probably go to the Norton Rats.
Yeah, they had a whole huge collection of stickers from mostly motorcycles, but all kinds of travelers, both on the front and back of their front door, along the mirror behind the bar, and we added ours to the collection.
And keep in mind too that like most people that do these trips don't even make stickers. These are just the stickers that show up there, and so
right.
A lot of people do this. A lot of people went through there. The guy that started the bar originally was just passing through on his bike and decided to open up a bar, I think. And it's a pretty cool place, and we're happy to be a part of its history.
Yeah. And then we decided to go to Machu Picchu, of course, and there are many different ways to get there. Most people take the train from Cusco.
Yeah, a train ticket's about $200 round trip from there, and per person, and that's the foreigner fee. For like locals, I believe it's 30 cents, just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
And it's a very strict schedule. You go there, you try and do it all in one day, and that's just not quite our style. You can take public transport too. You
can take a bus to a closer city and then take the train from there.
Or take a bus the whole way. And some people hike the whole thing. But we need to find our own route that works best for us. We're currently in Cusco, Peru, and we are going to attempt to ride our motorcycles as far as we can to Machu Picchu. Most people take a train, which takes all day, but instead we'll ride our bikes all day. So we headed out from Cusco towards Machu Picchu on our own bikes. How awesome is that? And I had forgotten how fun motorcycles are to ride when they don't have 100 pounds worth of gear on the back.
Right.
We were able to strip down to basically just a backpack and some spare parts and tools, the bare basics that we would need.
We left all our luggage at the hotel in Cusco, so that was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice, and like, I forgot how much fun motorcycles were. You can lean over in turns, even in the dirt. It was great.
Yeah, but so we took the roads through the mountains to get to Machu Picchu on the road there, and it was cold. It was very foggy and a little bit rainy, misty, cold. It was very cold.
But still very easy to ride because we didn't have weight on the bikes.
Easier.
Yeah.
I was very cold.
Yeah. She gets colder than I do.
Exactly.
And
so we took the road to Santa Teresa?
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria is the first
town.
And that's where the paved road ends.
There was little sections of unpaved part that they were kind of working on. There was some water crossings to get through there also. But basically you're going over like 2 or 3 mountain ranges or so to get there.
Right.
A lot of elevation changes.
Right.
But it gets warmer again. Like it was really cold before, but you're back down in Santa Maria.
Right.
This is kind of the border of the jungle. If you go a little bit further in, like you were back in jungle type territory again. So it was warmer again.
Yeah, so then once we got to Santa Maria, we did take a turn off onto pure dirt roads, like alongside a canyon, you know, alongside the mountain in a canyon, basically.
And it was a good 30 miles of dirt.
Right.
But very fun.
And more water crossings, which was fun. And then we get to a little town called Santa Teresa, which is the farthest that you can officially ride or take a bus or anything.
Yeah, if you're going to take a bus somewhere or a taxi, that's as far as you could go.
Right, but we kept riding. So we're on our own bikes, and we rode to the hydroelectric plant.
So we arrived at the Hydroelectrica and we met some other bikers in Cusco, and they recommended that we park at a restaurant that's right on the tracks. So that's where we are now, and we're going to walk for about 3 hours to Aguas Calientes, which is the town right next to Machu Picchu. I really wanted to walk all the way to Machu Picchu, or ride our bikes as far as we could, which was totally true, and we could not have ridden further past this because there's big gaps in like the railroad tracks and crossing bridges and that kind of stuff. So this was as far as we go on the bikes. But
so we did not pay any transit fees at all to get to the town at the base of Machu Picchu, which is called Aguas Calientes.
So it was dark by the time we arrived, and as you're walking into town, you start running into people that are trying to sell you stuff.
People running up to you in the street, handing you the flyers for their hotel, because you're obviously tourists. We obviously need a place to stay for the night.
We met them on the street and did some negotiating. And,
right. We established a price.
They started out at $70 a night or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And that was too much. And I think we talked them down to 25.
Something like that, yeah. And so
which was kind of normal for what we'd been paying for. And this is a super touristy town, so we figured, yeah, it's going to be
a little bit more. So we agreed. We started putting our stuff away and everything, and then we checked, you know, the supplies for everything, and like, oh, you know, is the toilet paper and towels going to be coming? Like, oh, that's going to be extra. Toilet paper costs extra if your hotel's that cheap, apparently.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, forget it. We're done. Like
no.
we'll go stay somewhere else. I'm like, okay, we'll give you one roll and one towel.
You have to share the towel.
You have to share the towel. That was their thing. So
we did.
Okay, that was fine. We've also found another place to stay the next night.
So the next day we went to Machu Picchu. We took the bus up there. You can walk, but it's 1 kilometer straight up, elevation change. I'm not sure what the exact route is.
But it's all switchbacks to be able to do that.
All switchbacks, 1 kilometer straight up.
The bus was nice, I guess. I admit. I was a little bit against the bus. I wanted to get there under my own power, but
100%.
I was convinced otherwise.
Yeah, so then we got to the top, and Machu Picchu is very pretty.
Never thought we'd ride our motorcycles here.
You can see down pretty much on all sides, down into the valley, the river going. You can see the hydroelectric plant from there.
Yeah, you can see the exact trail that we took to get that we walked up the day before.
Right. And we saw alpacas running around. Not up close, but we could see them in the other parts of the city as we were walking.
And again, it's cool to be able to like actually walk on the ruins themselves versus like stand far back away from them. And there's a lot of people there, and you know they're doing little repair things all over the place. But you know, it was a good experience. There was a rock quarry there. I thought that was really interesting. Like everyone's like, how did they get the rocks up there?
The rocks were already there.
They get the rocks there and move them to somewhere else already on the mountain.
The surrounding mountains, you could also hike up those. We didn't do that because those are like super strenuous all-day type of things.
And also this was the most we paid to do like almost any excursion on the entire trip. I think tickets were about $40 per person, which is not much if you're taking a trip from the US down there.
Yeah.
But we've been spending about $40 a day in general. But it was totally worth it. I'm glad we were able to do it.
Yeah.
It was definitely one of the highlights. We took the bus back down to Aguas Calientes, and it was time for lunch. And we didn't want to have the regular tourist fare, pizza.
Expensive.
And we found a better alternative. So we're here in Aguas Calientes, and last night when we got here it was late, we were just hungry, and we ended up eating at like one of the touristy spots, and we ordered some of the cheaper things on the menu, and it was, you know, $30. But now we're here at the Mercado in Aguas Calientes. This is where the locals eat. Get a nice plate of food for like $2, and it's a lot more affordable for our kind of trip, and better food as well.
we took the train back to the restaurant where we parked our bikes instead of walking again because we were kind of tired from walking around all the time. But it had been raining, so getting back out on those train tracks was even more tricky than it was the first time.
Yeah, I had a little more trouble than Serafina. You know, you're going along and I was just in a bad position, but you know, you got to kind of get some momentum to get over it.
And there's not room because you're in the middle of the two tracks on either side of you, so you have to figure out how to get as perpendicular as you can with not much room to do that.
So I went down a little bit, as they say, and Serafina helped.
Helped get back up.
Yeah, helped me get back up.
That's fine.
Yeah, and then you know, we made it out, and again the roads were a little bit more muddy because of that, but
water crossings were a little bit more, but still it was easy.
it was great.
It's still cold again, very foggy, misty, rainy. I was cold
That's just how
again.
it is up there. I mean,
I
for
know.
all of Peru in the mountains, if you're up at a high elevation,
in the
that's what it's
mountains.
going to be like.
Yeah.
And there's
What's
a
the elevation in Cusco?
10,000.
I think it's 10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty high, and it's cold.
Well,
yeah.
no, but when we pass in the mountains, it's
right.
way higher.
It's
than
even
that.
higher than that.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's probably like 13,000 or so.
Right. And so then we got back into Cusco, and coming back into Cusco, you can really see the whole city from that road, and we got a nice view of the city that way.
So we had a chance to meet up with Harry, who we mentioned early in the Stall Rat episode.
Mm-hmm.
He's a British veggie bike diesel Royal Enfield rider. So it's always cool to meet up with him again.
And we also made a new friend with Glenn, who was staying at the hotel. He's an Australian who was traveling extensively throughout all South America. So all of us went out to dinner. We met again at the Norton Rats.
That's where you meet if you're a biker. And yeah, we just went out for dinner, and it was cool to see people that you've met before earlier on the trip.
Yeah, and as we were walking to the restaurant, we came across a very famous 12-sided Incan rock, which had been there for millennia from the Incan days. And then we left Cusco and headed to Puno, which is on Lake Titicaca.
That's how you're supposed to say it.
That's how you say it.
Do not say it Titicaca. That's not how you say it.
You say it Titicaca. That's the correct pronunciation.
Practice it.
But on the way to Lake Titicaca, we ran into another motorcycle rider, obviously a foreigner, who ended up being from Israel. So he was going the same direction we were.
We had lunch with him real quick, and then like, well, let's ride together.
We're going the same way, might
that's
as
what we
well.
did.
At this point, my GPS was kind of dying a little bit. The touchscreen wasn't working very well, so I couldn't input any city names or anything. But we're just going on the freeway.
Yeah,
anyway.
we're headed south. We're headed to main cities.
So it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, we've gone through the hard parts.
Or so we thought.
Yeah.
We ended up going through a town called Juliaca, and you think, you know, you just go through the town, no big deal. But the town, or the road that we were on, the main road that we were on, suddenly turned into a one-way going the opposite direction at one point. So, and there was no signs, of course. So we turned and we had to try to find our way back to that main road, trying to figure out when it stopped being a one-way.
Yeah, so in the process of doing that, we came across a parade. And
we pulled up at a stoplight right as the parade was starting. So the cars in front of us got in front of the parade.
if we were more aggressive, maybe we could have made it.
But we didn't want, we were riding with door on and we didn't want to, you know, rush it anyway. And so we had to wait for the whole parade to go by. It was pretty cool.
And then we joined the parade in the back and kind of went along with them for a while.
Well, it was really cool seeing the ladies dancing. They had nice dresses. They were flowing around.
We're on vacation.
Yeah, we watched the parade go by, and then yeah, we followed the parade out down the street.
We turned the first opportunity we could.
Which everyone else was doing also. So traffic was super dense.
But so we were kind of going in lane splitting at this point, and our
Right.
bikes are nice and small and narrow. Doran's bike, the other rider we're riding with, was a little bit
BMW.
bigger, full-size BMW GS 1200.
Right.
We got separated.
A little
So
bit.
we're like, oh, that's the last we're going to see of Doran. And
So we eventually, you know, after taking wrong turns again, trying to find that road again.
we made it back on the other side of town, going through some dirt to do that actually.
Exactly.
And we were just going down the main highway up, we're headed the right direction again.
And just a few miles outside of town, we went through what looked like snow. It was like slush piles on the road. It's like
deep too,
man,
it was.
It's supposed to be summer. It's not supposed to snow around here.
It's pretty high altitude. Lake Titicaca is one of the highest altitude lakes
It's
in the
true.
world, especially
Right.
large lakes.
Yeah, and so then just past that, we noticed Doran coming up behind us, and it turns out that he had been caught in the hailstorm. It turned out to be a hailstorm.
He ducked underneath something and was
saw us
waited
go
out.
by. We didn't get hailed on, but apparently he kind of did. So we met back up with him and kept riding to Puno.
we knew of a good hotel to go to because of Glenn, who's very familiar with the area, recommended a hotel for us, and with great parking, which is always essential.
So what is it after all?
It's a guinea pig.
It's a pig.
Guinea pig. It's like a rat.
Like a rat.
It's just a tooth right there.
Tooth?
Yeah. It's a jaw that's split open. So we put this off long enough. We're almost near the bottom of Peru. We're near Lake Titicaca in Puno, and we still haven't had cuy, which is a guinea pig. And I used to have one as a pet, so I do feel kind of bad about this, but it's supposed to be the thing to try. So we'll see what it's all about. It's just like a little drumstick.
You're waiting for your judgment.
Doesn't taste like anything. It's like chicken. So I ate the cuy. I'm still hungry. I'm not that crazy about it. It tastes like chicken, just really not as much flavor really. And the worst part is I feel a little bad.
So after that little dinner experience, we went to the ATM like we've done dozens of times before. But with the cuy experience fresh in our mind, the ATM started making some squeaky sounds.
Made me feel even worse. It was horrible. Yeah, it sounds like a cuy. It's still alive.
Like a guinea pig.
And I can't say this about that many things in my life, but I probably won't eat that again.
Yeah, you don't say that very often, do you? So that was kind of traumatic for Aaron especially.
I'd rather eat ants. So we were going to take a boat out to these reed villages. It's supposed to be just a really interesting perspective on how people live.
On floating islands on the lake itself.
And you walk down this boardwalk and there's tons of these ferry boats that take people out there. This is just a tourist thing to do. There's a lot of different companies that do it, but it's still cool to see.
It was very cool, yeah.
And
as we were on the boat out there, there was a little onboard entertainment, which was fun. Play this little song.
And you pass this like super hotel right on the lake, like overlooking pretty much all these reed villages, which I don't know how many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I think it was $1,000 or $2,000 a night for that kind of place.
Something like that.
It's just mind-boggling. People spending that kind of money versus reed villages and reed islands, people scraping by.
So we arrived on these islands, and they literally are made of reeds, and they are floating on the lake. They're floating.
And there's some locals there to greet you as you get on the island, and very colorfully dressed.
So we sat down on the reeds, and one of the men explained us the history, how it works, how they make the islands, which was really fascinating.
Yeah, they're anchored right in the center, and then they kind of brace them out further away, so that basically the islands would float and go anywhere in the lake if you didn't do that. And
this lake actually is half owned by Bolivia. Half of it is in Bolivia, half of it is in Peru.
The exact border is still somewhat disputed, but I guess it doesn't matter too much since
it's on the water, yeah. And all the women on the islands were selling their crafts, homemade crafts, little souvenirs for tourists to buy.
Well, I got a chance to talk to them a little bit and just trying to ask them what life was like, what they eat, what they do, and
how you cook. How do you cook on an island made of reed villages?
And they have these stoves, and guess what they use for fuel?
Reeds.
Yeah. And they also, those reeds are used for everything. They make their crafts with them, they make the islands out of them, they make boats out of them, and you can also eat them.
What is it?
This is similar to papyrus. It's the reed that grows here all over that they use everything for. And apparently you can eat it. Has the texture of styrofoam and almost no taste. How do you like it?
Just like you said, it's like texture of styrofoam, but not as chewy. It's not bad. It's a good snack.
I think you'd have to eat a lot of it to be full.
Yeah, it's a snack. It's not a meal. And then they let us ride on some of the reed boats. We just went out and floated in the lake a little bit on their reed boats.
I rode.
I relaxed.
Yeah, it was fun.
And a couple of it was all the people who had come from Puno in our little tourist group, but they also sent 2 of their little girls, toddlers.
That live on the
toddler
island.
age. Yeah, local girls in their local dress so that we could take cute pictures of them, and they were very cute. And then we headed back to Puno.
It's time for lunch again, like always.
Alright.
Time for lunch.
Gracias.
Or almuerzo.
What are you eating?
Some sort of soup.
Comes the first course is usually soup, and then there's a segundo, which is probably going to be a plate. Something similar.
This is the almuerzo, the todo,
Almuerzo.
completo.
Yeah, completo.
Buen provecho.
Is that papa?
That's I've been wanting to eat that.
I know.
Those are the like dried and
Ah,
somewhat fermented potato.
okay.
Describe that. Tofino.
So this is chuño. It's in the soup that we're eating. It's apparently it's one of the dried and fermented potatoes that they like to eat here. I haven't tried it yet.
Try it. It tastes like
Potato.
this one.
It's a little drier. Yeah.
How do you like it? Good. Very good. Like it. So it's time to leave Peru and we're going to head towards Arica, Chile. And to do that, we're going to have to head through some really high mountain passes once again. And there's no trees because of the super high altitude.
But there's lots of grazing fields where they raised their alpacas. And this is the first time that we really started seeing the alpacas.
Really large herds of them at the time.
Huge herds right on the side of the road, one after the other.
Just thriving in this really kind of arid type of environment.
Yeah, we
And
even pulled over and wanted to pet some of them, but the
shepherd.
alpaca herd wouldn't let us because they're too skittish.
Wait, that's not they let us. Just said that you're probably
They,
not going
they
to
wouldn't be able
to.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get close. But we got lots of pictures. We saw lots of alpacas.
But these are really amazing animals. We have our sweaters made out of them. You can make a cheese out of them, and they taste delicious too. So what more could you ask for from an
In steak
animal?
or burger form, very delicious. So on our way towards Chile, we ran into another rider named Alicia, who is the first female Spanish motorcycle rider to ride a motorcycle around the world solo.
And
she was pretty cool.
it's fast. She was really fast. Like we were riding together, and that meant like she was. Oh, she was stopping to get gas and stuff, and like she just flew past us, like on her twin.
Right.
F650.
Yeah.
And but we met up with her at the border. She wasn't that much further ahead of us because borders take a while.
Yeah, because she was stuck at the border a little bit. And so then we went through the border all together, all 4 of us, Dora and
Took a picture. This is one of the last countries we're going into, so we got a good border
Second to
crossing.
last,
yeah,
yeah.
and then the Chile side took quite a bit longer. We actually had our bags like screened, I think, for the first time as we went
Took
through
them
there.
through the X-ray.
Yeah. Just one of them out of the, I don't know how many were
6
carrying.
were carrying for some reason. And so it got to be dark because the border took so long, but we could see the city lights as it was getting dark, so it wasn't that big a deal.
We figured one of our rules for riding this whole trip is don't ride at night, but we're at the border.
And we stayed close to that pretty much the whole time. We never really rode in the dark.
But we did ride in the dark to get there. But Doran knew the exact hotel to go to, so he led the way. On the next episode, we see some salt flats and break out our tent for the first time.
First of many. But until then, please subscribe to our videos on YouTube. There are plenty more coming. youtube.com/hungryriders. And of course, our whole trip is documented at hungryriders.com. See you next time.